So the name Mapmaker, does it refer to charting new territory or breaking new ground?
Yeah, just kind of, it's like it's my debut EP and kind of like my first foray into serious music business to
Right.
just kind of say like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put out this record. I'm going to go on tour and just kind of give it a shot.
You describe this album as being full of longing. Are you referring to somebody or something in particular when you say that?
I think the longing of just kind of wanting to be somewhere that, like, kind of tying into the Mapmaker theme, that like wanting to be somewhere that you can't quite get there yet, but you can see it, you know how to get there, but
And so it's a place for you artistically or personally that you're longing for.
I think it's just kind of to broaden it out to a wider audience, just wherever you're hoping to get,
Right.
and like how you're going to get there, and if it's going to take a long time or if there are going to be struggles on the way, kind of that longing of like, oh, I really want to get there, but it's going to be so much work or it's going to be so much time, but just kind of that journey, I guess.
Is there a particular goal for you? Because you said you want this album to reach a certain amount of people, right?
Yeah. For now, my goal is just to play as much as I can. So I eventually, like, my mini goal is to play the country. So
Play the country.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you already covered the East Coast with your tour.
Yes, we went everywhere except for Newfoundland. So eventually we'll get to Newfoundland.
So where exactly did you go? New Brunswick, PEI?
Yeah. Through we played in Montreal. We played a few different spots in New Brunswick, a couple spots in Nova Scotia, and in PEI.
And you drove from Toronto?
Yeah, we drove the whole way. So we were gone for about 2 weeks. The only really big drives were kind of from getting from Montreal to that first spot in New Brunswick, and then on the way home, getting from that last spot in New Brunswick back to Montreal.
Yeah.
Those were long drives.
So what's it like being on tour and being the only girl, having to live with these people and share, I don't know, everything with them?
It was great. They're awesome. Coffee was a really big thing on the tour. My drummer, Ian Wright, kind of converted us all slowly. He lives right near the Pilot Roastery in
Toronto.
In Toronto, yeah.
Right.
He lives in Leslieville. And there's, whenever we rehearse at his place, it's really hard to not do the Leslieville Triangle, which for us is lunch at this awesome Egyptian spot called Maha's,
Right.
and then coffee at the Pilot Roastery, and then beers at Left Field Brewery. So it's like this local triangle of awesome food and drinks. And,
Right.
But we all got bags of Pilot coffee to bring on the road, and then Ian has a hand grinder, and Soren, my bass player, has a pour over setup, and Dan's got an AeroPress and Ian's got an AeroPress. And so on the road it was like 3 coffees a day, and somebody was grinding coffee and somebody was like pouring it into the AeroPress.
What are the difference between some of the Toronto crowds and the East Coast crowds? Do you find there's a difference between the two audiences?
It's hard to say because like Toronto has so much happening. Like you can go any night of the week and find a show, and like there are hundreds of venues in the city.
There are musicians everywhere.
Yeah, and so
Right.
we've got this fantastic saturated market where there's music all the time, but maybe because of that, people are kind of thinking, oh, well, I can go see you anytime. And where in some of these smaller towns,
It's one show.
yeah.
Right.
So we played an awesome gig in this teeny tiny town called Charlotte in northern New Brunswick.
Right.
And we got there, and it's beautiful. It's right on the St. Lawrence River, and the town has like 2,000 people in it.
It's
And
tiny.
It's really small, and it was super funny because we got there and we unloaded all the gear, and Dan Fontaine, he's the owner of the Heron's Nest Bistro and Cottages. He's an awesome guy. He set us all up, and then one of the managers of of the bar was saying, oh, like, it's Thursday night, you got to go to wing night. It's like the thing to do in the town. So we went to wing night, which is like at this house across the street or down the street. And we like had our dinner and just kind of taking note of there was like a birthday party happening, and the place was filled.
Right.
And the waitress, as we were leaving, she was like, we were saying, oh yeah, we're playing down the street if you want to come check it out. She's like, I thought I recognized you guys. You're on the Facebook page for this bar. And we're like, yeah, that's so cool. And then we played the gig, and like everybody that was having the birthday party at Wing Night came to the bar.
See the gig.
And not because like we told them or knew them or anything. It's just like that's the thing to do. Like you go to Wing Night and then you go to the Heron's Nest because it's the place to be.
Yeah.
And then it was so funny because the next morning I went to the bank, and the teller at the bank was our waitress from Wing Night. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
So she's a waitress and a teller?
Yeah.
And she saw your show?
She didn't see the show. She said, I drove by and the parking lot was full, so I figured I wouldn't get a spot. But it was just, it was nice to like play for an audience that was so engaged, and like, it seemed like they were really enjoying it. And in Toronto, you can definitely get that, but I feel like it's harder because everybody's used to seeing like music all the time.
Right, and sometimes if you tell people you're doing a show, they'll be like, oh, Emily's going to do another show next week, so I'll just go and see her then.
Yeah, well, I'm guilty of that too. Like if a friend has a residency where they're always playing on Tuesdays or something, it's like, oh, well, they'll be there next Tuesday.
Exactly, so you're missing 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah,
right.
Which is, life.
As a singer, it's very important for you to connect, right? Mm-hmm. To create like an intimate atmosphere.
Yeah.
And to relay your emotions to the audience.
Yeah.
What are some of the most important things to you as being like the leader and being in the front, so that you can keep the audience enthralled?
I think one thing that I generally go to is telling stories, like just kind of talking a bit about what the songs are about. Just so they have that level of connection and can kind of get into my head of where I was when I was writing the song.
Right.
But I'm kind of trying to decide if that's a good thing or not, because you want to leave the songs open to interpretation too, to not necessarily be like, this is how I was feeling, like, so that this can be how maybe you're feeling in this moment, which isn't how I was feeling when I wrote it, but if it can work for you.
Right. A lot of singers have that internal debate as to whether they should tell people what the song is about, or have the person figure it out on their own, right? So what point are you at right now in the struggle?
I still like telling the stories.
You like telling the stories?
Yeah, so.
Hey there, stranger.
Thank you.
What's your lyric writing process? For particularly for that song.
For that song, it was kind of just like an emotional release. I had like a bad subway experience where somebody said something gross to me and like totally uncalled for and inappropriate.
Recently?
Well, last year.
Okay.
And so the song is just basically my reaction to being like, I don't know you. Like, you're literally a stranger. Why would you say that?
Why would you ever say something like that?
Yeah, and just people sometimes like my experience of like being a woman in this city, and I was just feeling really mad, and so I like went home, and I was like a day later I wrote this song, and it was just more just like an emotional release to be like, okay, I'm just gonna sing about this, and I'm gonna have an angry song, because sometimes you need to just talk about what makes you angry and have that emotional release.
Do many of your songs stem from personal experiences and struggles?
No. Most of them are like nerdy things, like the song about space and like the song about the whale and like just things that I hear about. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That would be something neat to write about. Not a lot of them have a huge emotional connection to my personal life, and maybe that's just because my personal life is kind of boring. But yeah, in this particular moment, I was like just pissed, and that's why it's nice to like write a rock song, get angry, and sing about it.
How does it feel to? Is it cathartic?
Totally.
To let out to tell the story through your lyrics.
Yeah.
And to release your emotions through music.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And well, and even happy songs too. You're just like you're back in that moment of like, oh yeah, this is fun.
Is it therapeutic in a way?
Totally.
Yeah, it makes you feel so much better.
Yeah.
That you're able to share it, not just by telling the story, but by singing about it, right?
Yeah. Well, and sharing it for an audience, but also just being able to go home and sit at the piano and sing. It's just a great thing.
Right.
And a great feeling. Yeah.
What do you like most about performing?
I think just when you're having a performance and you are able to connect with an audience and with your band members on a certain level. Like, you know, when you're in the middle of a song and like something really cool is happening musically and you just have a moment on stage
with your bandmates.
With your bandmates, and then it's kind of reflected into the audience just because it almost feels like an out-of-body experience sometimes, because you're like, this is way bigger than just me. Like, this is the music happening, and it's kind of so cool when you have those moments. And
everybody's sharing
the
experience with you.
Sharing it, and like it can't be replicated through a recording or a video. Just kind of when you're in there in the moment, there's nothing like that.
You mentioned that you like writing story-based pop songs. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the stories that are of particular significance to you?
Well, the Nord makes like all of these crazy. They have all these crazy sample sounds uploaded to it.
Right.
And there's this one sound that it kind of sounds like the theme to Stranger Things, like just that kind of wow, like analog-y.
Old school.
Yeah, electronic. And I was like, oh my gosh, it sounds like space. Like, I'm going to write a song about space. And my roommate at the time, she, like, in that same week, she came home and she was like, oh, Emily, did you hear about Pluto? And I was like, no, what about Pluto?
What about Pluto?
And they had just gotten a photo of Pluto. They sent a satellite out to
Emily, thanks so much for coming in.
Research on Pluto, and it was called the New Horizons NASA space mission.
Right.
And it took them 9 years to get there, and like halfway through, they weren't sure if their funding was going to come through, and they were worried about like maybe we'll just have to abandon this Pluto satellite. But they made it, and the photo is like beautiful,
spectacular.
It's amazing, and it's like just so cool that we have this thing that's from so far away, but it's kind of like,
so that inspired you to write the song?
Yeah, and the song is just kind of about like we do these things that don't make any sense, like spending billions of dollars on a satellite to go see Pluto.
Just because.
Yeah, just because. And like it might take a long time, it might be hard to get there, but we still do it. And I thought that was a cool thing to write a song about.
In your bio, you wrote about exploring the depth of oceans and the stratospheres of space. Mm-hmm. So where does your curiosity with oceans stem from?
I have no idea, because Lake Ontario is not the ocean. It's beautiful, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just like those wide open spaces that kind of really makes you feel small for a second.
Right.
Like it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm really just a blip in the span of the universe.
Exactly. When you watch those videos that are like they show you on Earth, and then they show Earth in the solar system, and then the solar system in the universe.
Yeah.
And you just feel so tiny.
Yeah. It's like my bad day is not that bad. It'll be fine.
Exactly. So this you mentioned that the album is also about the optimism and excitement of moving to new cities. Mm-hmm. Are you drawing from personal experience when you say that, or?
That song, yes. So I grew up in the suburbs in Mississauga, and I was there all my life until, I guess, 3 years ago, and kind of always growing up, I was like, oh, I want to move to Toronto.
But they're right next to one another.
I know they're right next to each other, but I wanted to be on the subway line, Felix.
Okay.
Now the subway line has lost its thrill. But
now it's just bad and dirty.
Yes, where before, when it was like once a year, you're like, go on the subway to the Eaton Center. Ooh.
It used to be cool, but not so much.
Yeah. Now it's like TTC delays and, life. But
so is that what you were referring to? You want to move to Toronto?
Yeah. For me, it was a huge deal. I just wanted to, well, even just like being out kind of on your own and living with your friends and kind of taking on more responsibilities than you've had in the past. It's just kind of that, like, starting to make more decisions about what you want to do.
Emily, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank you, Felix.